we feel something too. There's a sense of grief that comes when you're realizing that the person you were years ago is not here today. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Afterthoughts. I was having a great conversation with a friend of mine that honestly inspired this entire episode. The conversation started because we were just talking about back in the day. How were you? What were the things that you were into? All that fun stuff. And it got me to thinking, what would life be like if I had stayed the same? If I was still acting like I was at the age of 18. I think back to the 18-year-old version of Agnes, and it is literally comical. I think about the girl who was trying to figure out where she wanted to go to college, deciding where she wanted to go to college. I was completely headstrong, which that's still very much in play. But I was at 18. I was really just at the beginning of what do I want my adult life to look like? I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do professionally. I was excited about what I was going to do professionally. I was excited about going to a HBCU, but I also was extremely immature. There were so many things that I had not been exposed to, things that I had not learned, people that I needed to meet. And I just think about that 18-year-old version of myself, the girl with the McDonald's arch eyebrows, the black lip liner, and just excited to jump right in. And I'm like, gosh, I love her so much because she was very ambitious and she knew that she wanted to step out and do really big things in the world. And I love her for that, because if I was not that person at 18, I would not be where I am today. But I also look back at her and I'm like, girl, there was so much for you to learn. But I think back to it and I'm so glad that I've evolved since then. I think that people struggle with this concept of evolution, that people genuinely grow. And if you're not growing, then what are you doing?
People look at you strange saying you changed, like you worked that hard to stay the same. Like you're doing all this for a reason.
You don't want to be the 18 version of yourself 20 years later, you know? Like that's not a goal in life. And I just think about how people really do struggle with this concept of evolution, that people grow and people change based on life experiences, exposure. Sometimes things just force you to evolve and be a different version. And not only do the people that surround you struggle with evolution as you grow and change, but internally we feel something too. There's a sense of grief that comes when you're realizing that the person you were years ago is not here today. There's grief because in order to be the best version of yourself, there are parts of yourself that you genuinely have to release. And that could be people, habits, places, things. Because if you're not obedient and you hold on to those things, then you're carrying all this dead weight and your hands are full of things that are no longer serving you, and you don't have the space to receive new things into your life. And that is a tough pill to swallow, you know, just this reality that, wow, in order for me to evolve, in order for me to grow, for me to be the best version of myself, that I have to let some things go. As we grow, it does require a different level of intentionality. As we develop goals and as we start to come to realize who we are as individuals, it does require for us to be a lot more mindful of the direction that we take our lives and the things that we involve ourselves with. As you're releasing the elements of yourself that you feel no longer align with the direction that you're going, and you're going through this grief process, I want people to be mindful of what grief entails. Grief has 5 various stages, and you can bounce from those 5 stages at anytime. Some people think that grief is only related to you losing a person physically, but you can grieve losing a job, friendship, a relationship loss. It doesn't have to be an actual physical death. You could go through moments of shock where you don't quite believe this is the new life. You could go through moments of despair and extreme sadness because you are sad that you have to release those things in your life. And you could ping pong from any of those 5 stages at any time. As you're moving through that grief process, sometimes it can feel like you're isolated because you're processing this evolution and everything that's happening. And what I like to compare it to is the caterpillar going into the cocoon and then eventually coming out as the butterfly. The caterpillar cannot go into the cocoon with someone else. They do have to isolate themselves in order to go through this extreme evolution. That can be hard for people to really understand. That sometimes when someone you love, whether it's a partner or a friend, is going through something that is forcing them to be a different version of themselves, they may not be as accessible anymore. And when they're not as accessible anymore, people start to say things. Oh, she's changed. Oh, he's this. And yeah, it's true. But people also have to respect the fact that it's hard for you too. You're grieving too. You're moving through all the things as well. And it doesn't feel good all of the time. And sometimes you're not going to feel better until you're out of the cocoon. We just really have to give ourselves the grace to evolve and be okay with this level of isolation and the things that come with doing the deep work to become the best version of ourselves. As you're going through this process of deep evolution and growth, your mindset changes. The things you want to do may change. Your hobbies may look differently. That 18-year-old version of myself, I don't think would have even considered going to a golf course. Find me at the Jeezy concert. That's where I wanted to be at 18. And not to say that I still don't want to be there today, but I have evolved. I could listen to Jeezy while I'm on the golf cart. People that you surround yourself with may change because of what you're aspiring to do. Maybe at 20, you didn't know that you wanted to be a VP or a CEO. Like for me, I was working part-time at Payless when I was in college. Shout out to the people who know about Payless, BOGO sales. But at 18, I was spending my time navigating that space, hustling, trying to make it through college. And how would I have known that at that age that I needed to surround myself with different types of people in order to achieve my professional goals? Like my professional goals entailed, climbing up the corporate ladder. That meant that I needed to learn how to do things differently and expose myself to different things so that I can hang with the big dogs. Like that is the nature of growth. An example, if I had stayed in the small town that I had grew up in, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing right now. I don't think I would. And with that comes an evolution in the people that you surround yourself with sometimes. Not everybody can go with you. And we hear it all the time that growth does require you to change the circle. And you are a reflection of the top 5 people you spend the most time with. But that doesn't make it any easier when you have to release people or move on from interacting with people that you have spent 15, 20 years with. That's tough. As for me, that is not an easy thing for someone like me to navigate because I value loyalty. I value being around people that I have history with. There are some people who are accustomed to that, or you're so busy where you feel like you don't necessarily have the bandwidth to really establish these really deep and close relationships with people because their life is hectic and busy. It's nice to know that you have history with people. So to realize you might not be able to come on to the next chapter. Might have to get left behind, and not in a bad way, not in a I can't stand you and I can't talk to you anymore. Not that. That's not the vibe. It's more so that you realize that you need a different type of person to be with you for the next season. And I will say for me personally, that's been a hard realization. Realizing that everybody's not going to understand the bigger picture. Everybody's not going to be able to hold space for you as you're evolving. And going to have to be very comfortable with being uncomfortable in that space. It ain't easy. I wish I could say it was easy and it was cute, but it's not. If you've been feeling like this, like you feel like you're in this strange space between who you once were and who you're becoming, and you feel like you're right there smack dab in the middle of the evolution, you're starting to feel kind of isolated. You're feeling like you're going through this extreme grieving process. Here are ways to help you start to explore the new version of yourself. So here's why these things are important. It's important when you're in the process of an evolution, going from who you once were to who you're becoming. It's important that we start to test drive who we strive to be. And you have to get comfortable with the new version of yourself. So you have to start exposing yourself to the things that you are working towards. For example, if you are the type of person who is very ambitious, career driven, and wants to make your way to the C-suite, then you have to start interacting with people that are on that same path, or surround yourself with people who are already there. And that can be uncomfortable. It means you have to start putting yourself in position to be exposed to that so that when your time does come, you're ready. So it means maybe you do need to sign up for the conference, and you may not know anybody, but you'll be in the building. And you'll start to kind of try it on and see, like, is this really what I want? Does this feel aligned? Is this the direction that I really feel like I'm supposed to be going? And as we're going through that evolution, the more we start to kind of try the things that we're aspiring to be, we'll become more comfortable in that in-between process, and it won't be as difficult. So here are ways for you to start just trying it on, seeing how it feels. It will help release and help you through that grieving process. If you're someone who has gone through grief before, maybe you've lost someone, and there are certain things that you do that help you feel better. That could be something as simple as looking at photos of somebody that you lost. It just helps you feel more at ease. That is the same concept behind this, that you're starting to put yourself in position to ease the grief so that you can move through it in a healthy way. And some of the things you can do is start exposing yourself to new environments, similar to what I mentioned as it relates to putting yourself in places where you aspire to be or you see yourself. So maybe that's booking the vacation or going to the hotel lobby or test driving the car, just putting yourself in the space where you can start to feel like, oh, this is the environment. This is what it will feel like once I expose myself to these things. Another thing you could do is you start learning something new. Expose yourself to learning a new skill set, whether that's learning a new language, going to an etiquette class, whatever that is that makes you feel like, okay, yeah, that is expanding my worldview. That is making me a more well-rounded person. That is putting me in the space where I'm striving to get closer to those goals. Another thing you could do is tap into your inner child. When you're in that process of transitioning from who you once were to who you're becoming, a lot of times we forget who we really are at our core. And when you create space for you to tap into your inner child, so when I say that, I'm saying doing the things that you used to love as a kid. So maybe that was painting, maybe that was riding a bike, flying a kite. I mean, it could be really simple things, but putting yourself to always do the things that bring you joy and are like core memories that remind you of who you really are, no matter what's going on in your life. Another way, which kind of ties into this idea of putting yourself in new environments, relocate. You can move. You can move to a new city. You can move to a new home. If you're living in an apartment or a home that doesn't necessarily feel like the best version of yourself, if it's within your means, change it up. Move, relocate. You'd be surprised what it can do for your mental being in a new space. It's like you're ushering in a new chapter just by relocating. And I know nobody likes to move. I don't know anybody who genuinely enjoys the moving process, but it's so beneficial and so helpful as far as just setting yourself to usher in this new chapter into your life. Another thing that you could do is join a club. If you want a new hobby, there are so many ways to get involved. So you could join a social club. There's wife clubs. I've seen a little bit of everything in this season of life. There's plenty of opportunities to join different organizations and clubs just to expose yourself to new people and hobbies. And another thing that you could do is reading books from a different genre. I'll tell you personally, for the longest, I was all about self-help books. That's all I was reading. Self-help this, self-help that. I loved it for the longest. And then I kind of plateaued where it's like, I find no interest. This year alone, I have tried to read 3 different self-help books and I just can't get through them. But if you give me a romance book right now, I'm just eating it alive. Like I'm running through them. And so sometimes it just takes exposing yourself to something else to ignite a different version of yourself. Maybe it's a new genre of books, watching different movies, maybe documentaries, just opening yourself to learn and see things from a different perspective. Another thing that I absolutely love, and this is something that I have done recently after I made the transition from my last corporate role, where I was essentially always dressed up, heels, business attire, out and about, always interacting with people. And after I left that space and I was looking at my closet and I'm like, girl, where are your casual clothes? My closet was primarily business attire. And so one of the things that I did was like, I really need to re-engage with what is my personal style right now? Who am I now? I'm not that girl anymore. And yes, I still have my business attire, but even my business attire is different now. And so giving yourself the space to revisit your personal style. What do you like? What don't you like? As you evolve and change, so do your likes and interests. And sometimes we get stuck in like who we were 10 years ago. And it happens so fast. You blink your eyes and you're like, oh, that's not me anymore. Like I can tell you, as I was going through my closet purge, I found stuff literally from college, from undergrad, not grad school, from undergrad, where I'm like, girl, why do you still have these like plastic beads and these big old belts, even though the belts did make a comeback, but still some of this stuff literally can go. So take some time to revisit, like, who are you now? You know, what feels good for you in this season of life, or what feels aligned with what direction you're moving towards, and make the adjustments, because as you adjust and as your lifestyle changes, so does your personal style. Another one that I highly encourage people to do this one all the time is really revisiting like bucket list. So again, like thinking about the 18-year-old version of me, the things that were on my bucket list at 18 are most of them are scratched off the list. So what's on your bucket list now? What is it that you want to do in this season? What do you want to do in the next 10 years, 20 years? What brings you joy and excitement now? Or what are the things that you're like, ooh, like I can tell you at 18, I was not thinking about, going to Iceland. That was definitely not on my bingo card, but here I am. And I'm like, that actually would be a pretty cool trip. So just thinking outside of the box and things that you want to do beyond, you once were once upon a time, and give yourself permission to be imaginative. Give yourself permission to think outside the box, to think of things that maybe you didn't think of back in the day. Give yourself permission to dream again. You think beyond who you once were and what you were exposed to 20 years ago. Maybe that's different now. Another one that you can do is take a personality test. There are definitely different easy, simple versions that you can access online. I highly recommend the Clifton's Strengths Test. You can find your top 5. You can literally go to Gallup's website and you could do this for like $20. I tell my clients to do it all the time. I would be surprised of the things that have transitioned or changed about you from when you were 20 to when you're 30. What may have been considered like a wrong personality trait, 20 may have shifted and gone down to number 3 instead of being your top 1 when you are knocking on 40. I highly encourage people to take some time to really get in touch with who you are now. And you may have changed. And it's good to know what has changed or what your strengths are or who you are in this season, not just from like philosophical perspective or how you feel spiritually, but also there's data that you can hold and look at and say, oh, wow, that's different. And another one that I say, try a new workout routine. If once upon a time you were a runner and that was your jam, and now here you are and you're like, my knees hurt and I need something that isn't going to beat me up, go to a Zumba class. Go try Pilates on a reformer and expose yourself to different things. Go to the YMCA and take a swim lesson. You don't have to stay in the same box that you were in just because that was normal for you back in the day. Give yourself permission to reset. Give yourself the space to try new things, to expose yourself to the things that could really change your life. It's just going to put you one step closer to the person you truly aspire to be. So those are just a few things that you can try that to help you, again, just move from who you once were to who you're becoming, and making that daily process of working to get to the other side feel a little easier, because evolving can be hard. Grief isn't cute. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to change. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the next episode.